joining this demo of the Palo Alto, and we welcome you, all of you, in this demo. So in this demo, we are going to look up the Palo Alto. Okay, we will understand what is Palo Alto and what is the career option we have once we complete any course in the Palo Alto. So let's discuss about Palo Alto certification and why this is demanded. So Palo Alto, this is a enterprise based firewall, okay, which is used on most of the data center nowadays, okay. And to get expertise on this firewall, we have some certifications. I mean, that is offered by the Palo Alto. So there are certification course, okay, that we can take, okay. And once we take this certification course, so we will get some expertise on Palo Alto firewall. So there is a certification which is known as a PCCSA. This is certification is basically designed for the cybersecurity students or industry people. Okay, so who are in cybersecurity, so they can go and they can take this certification. So the full form of this certification is Palo Alto Network Certified Cybersecurity Associate. Apart from this certification, there is another certification that is PCNSA. Okay, and once you complete this PCNSA certification, so basically you would be able to deploy a Palo Alto firewall. You would be able to operate basic operation you would be able to do on the Palo Alto firewall, and you would be able to manage the next generation firewall gateway. Okay, so full form of this PC NSA certification is Palo Alto certified, Palo Alto network certified network security administrator. After this certification, you can go for another certification, that is a PCNSC, and this is for the security guru. I mean, this is for the Palo Alto guru. So once you complete the certification, so you would have the expertise in Palo Alto firewall. Okay. Moving to next, why we should go and why we should learn the Palo Alto firewall. And before that, we will understand what the course content we are offering in the Palo Alto. Okay, so basically in course content we are offering the first. We will start from introduction of the Palo Alto hardware and Palo Alto firewall. What all the Palo Alto hardware concept? So we will discuss there. And after that, we will go for the vulnerability protection security profile, anti-spyware security profile. So we will create the different profile in terms of the preventing vulnerability, in terms of the preventing spyware, in terms of the preventing viruses. So we will understand how we can create these profile, how we can implement these profile, and if there's any issue is coming regarding these profile, okay, so how we can troubleshoot them. Then we will go for the packet filtering. So we will see here how we can create the rules to filter the packet. We will see how we can create a zone protection. So basically in Palo Alto, if you want to protect your network interfaces, so basically you can go for the zone protection. And we will understand the virtual system, what are the virtual system and what is the benefits. So virtual system is a logical firewall. So within the firewall, you can create a different context. That means VSys, virtual system. We will understand how you can create and what are the benefits of these virtual system have. We will see that how we can implement a VPN, whether this is site to site or global protect, which is remote access in Palo Alto. We will see here how we can do that. And then we will go and we will see net policy. Apart from this, we will also understand how we can do the URL filtering and how we can implement the SSL encryption and decryption. So that we will see. We will see that how application ID works and how we can create the rules based on the application ID. So application ID is on one of the great feature of Palo Alto firewall, where you can do the granular control on the traffic. Let's say you have a traffic for Zoom, and in Zoom, you know that this Zoom service is providing multiple things. Using Zoom, you can interact with audio, video, even though you can chat, you can send the file, you can share the whiteboard. So if you want to disable some functionality, like you want to control the traffic of Zoom, for example, you just want to allow traffic for traffic for audio video, but rest of the traffic you want to block so that you can perform using this app ID. So we will see that how we can implement the rule, app ID based rule rather than port or service based rule. So we will see here. Then we will go and we will see the network security management, how we can manage the network security things into the Palo Alto firewall. So this is the basic things. And if you go here in our website, you can see the course content over here. You just need to browse under course and then you select the Palo Alto. You can see our course content in detail. Okay, here you can see the prerequisite and then you can download the course content in much detail. So this is going to show you complete syllabus. So once you click on the download, this is going to show you complete syllabus. Right, so please let me know if you have any question regarding this particular course content. Anyone?
No.
All right, so let's move to next one. Okay, so this is about why Palo Alto firewall. So why we should choose a Palo Alto firewall? Because this is market leader. Okay, when you search a job, okay, so in market you would find plenty of job for the Palo Alto. Okay, because this is market leader in most of the data center. This is deployed. Okay, why this is deployed into most of the data center, why people are deploying this in their data center? Because this is next generation firewall, and next generation firewall feature, that the next generation firewall is going to inspect the packet from layer 1 to layer 7. Okay, from all layer the packet is going to be inspected, not only on the based on the layer 3, but it is going to inspect the traffic on each layer. So it would be able to identify the application. It would be able to detect the content, whatever the passing through the firewall. So this is able to detect. So let's say this is my firewall and I just want to transfer some packet, okay, which is my file. I just want to transfer the file from A to B location, right? So it would be able to inspect that content, and it would be able to find out whether the content is malicious or the content is good. Even though you can control into the content that what kind of content can be transferred, that means what the file can be transferred. If you want to block exe file that not to be transferred, so that you can do. Apart from that, you can restrict the control based on the application. So it is able to detect the application. It is able to detect the content, which is obviously the provided feature provided by next generation firewall. So Palo Alto does provide all these things, and that's why this is market leader now. Apart from this, you can manage this firewall with central management device. So there is a panorama. You can manage, if you want to manage this Palo Alto firewall, let's say this is my firewall and I just want to manage this firewall. So if I have individual firewall, just one firewall in my network, I don't need to purchase any manager. But if I just want to manage multiple firewall, let's say I have multiple firewall and I just want to manage these firewall, okay, multiple firewall. So I can manage this from central location from one device, which is known as a panorama. We just need to install this panorama and we can manage this all the gateway through this panorama. Gateway means all the firewall from this panorama. Okay, so that is another good feature of this Palo Alto firewall. That's why people are choosing this. The Palo Alto firewall does support single pass parallel processing architecture, which is just enhancing the processing of the packet. Means the time would be taken into the packet processing by the Palo Alto firewall would be very fast, just because of there is an architecture which is known as a SP3. Okay, single pass parallel processing. Using this architecture, Palo Alto is processing the packet very fast. So we will discuss in next slide what is SP3 and how it works. Apart from that, in Palo Alto Firewall, there is a dedicated CPU for management and data plane. Okay, so in Palo Alto, if you want to manage the policy, so for policy creation, there would be separate CPU use, and for traffic handling, there would be separate CPU is used. So that's the another feature, good feature. Let's say if there is any attack is happening on the firewall, let's say someone did the DDoS attack. Okay, now you want to block it. Okay, so you know, when the DDoS attack happen, so you know your CPU utilization or memory utilization would go high. So only what is going to be affected? Only your data plane is going to be affected, not a management plane. Earlier, what was happening when you have another firewall, and let's say you do the DDoS attack. So they are using a shared resources. The memory and devices are shared. So what happened? The utilization of your CPU and memory would go high, and you won't be able to access your firewall. In the Palo Alto, this is not possible, because in Palo Alto your data plane and management plane would be different. So let's say attack would happen on the firewall, so it would happen on the data plane, not on management plane. So you would still have access to this management plane, and you would be able to, you know, manage the firewall in the worst situation as well. Okay, so this is the another good cool feature of this Palo Alto firewall. And then this can be used on premises, and it can be used on the public cloud network. So let's say your organization is moving your data center on you know, cloud. Okay, so on cloud as well, whether this is Azure cloud, AWS cloud, or Google cloud, all this cloud does support the Palo Alto firewall. You can deploy those Palo Alto firewall in their cloud as well. Okay, Palo Alto firewall can also be used. I mean, in Palo Alto networks, you can also um, take the advantage of central log connection. So let's say these are the three gateway we have, which is on different location, and if we want to, you know, put log of these three gateway into single device. So yes, these gateway can forward the logs to Panorama server. So that's a good feature. I mean, if you need to search the log, so you don't need to go into each individual firewall. You can search the log into the Panorama only. So these are the feature which we have in the Palo Alto firewall, and that's why this firewall is very famous, and the people are choosing this firewall. Please let me know if you have any query.
So I have one query. What is the difference normal firewall and next generation firewall? What is the
So
feature? Any additional features?
yes, right. So normal firewall would not be able to, you know, process the packet based on the application. So normal firewall won't be able to identify the packet based on the application. Okay. Normal firewall would not be able to inspect the content in much detail. But if you have next generation firewall, so they does support all these things.
Okay.
All right, so moving to next, let's talk about, you know, this feature, which is very famous feature, that is single pass parallel processing in Palo Alto firewall. So you know that Palo Alto firewall would be able to identify application, okay, using app ID. Palo Alto firewall would be able to identify user using user ID, and Palo Alto firewall would be able to identify the content. When I say content, that means what is inside the packet, whether this is exe file, whether that is DLL file. So it would be able to identify the content as well. Okay, Palo Alto firewall would be able to execute the policy. Based on the policy, you can allow or block the traffic, and Palo Alto firewall would be able to do the networking task. Okay, so there is a you know, software which is known as a single pass software. Okay, this software allow that if there is any traffic hits to the firewall, okay, any packet hits to the firewall, this single pass software would allow this packet to be inspected parallelly inspected into policy engine, parallelly inspected for the, you know, app ID, user ID, content ID, and networking. This could be done into single pass. What happened in the old firewall? Let's say you have any other firewall, so you know they do these inspection one by one. Let's say any firewall is doing app ID inspection. So you know your packet would go into app ID inspection. After app ID inspection, the packet would go for the user ID inspection in traditional firewall. User ID inspection, and then your packet would go for next inspection, that is content ID inspection. But in the Palo Alto, this happens parallelly. So any packet which hits I mean, any packets which hit your firewall, that would go on all these engine, app id, user id, and content id, even though networking and policy engine. So this happen parallelly. Okay, so this is going to reduce the time. Let's say earlier it was taking 1 second over here, 1 second over here, 1 second over here. So overall it would be taking 3 seconds, to inspect that. Now what would happen when this go inspected parallelly? So how much time it would take? It would take only 1 second, because this is going to be parallelly. Okay, so this is the single pass software. This is the software architecture which is just performing most of the operation, like networking function, policy lookup, application identification, encoding and decoding of the application. Okay, signature matching for any thread or any content. Okay, these would be done by parallelly. Okay, to support all these things, I mean to support these function, we have the hardware. With To support the parallel processing, we have the hardware. Okay, so we have, as I told you, in Palo Alto firewall there would be control plane and data plane. For control plane there would be dedicated hardware. Okay, like dedicated cpu for the control plane. Okay, and for data plane there would be a dedicated cpu or for data plane as well. So we have parallel processing hardware which supporting all these things. Okay, so that our single pass software would be able to process this packet smoothly. So this is basically known as a pass parallel processing. Okay, so single pass is the software feature, and parallel processing are the hardware we have. Any question on this? No. So let's move to next one. Let's understand how the packet flow, or how the policy lookups done. Okay. So this is overview of the packet flow in the Palo Alto firewall. Let's say you have Palo Alto firewall over here, and you just want to send the traffic from one interface to another interface. Ethernet, let's say Ethernet 0 to Ethernet 1. This is your traffic, and let's say this is my firewall. So when packet hits to the firewall, okay, what the firewall do first? So firewall does initial packet processing. In initial packet processing, it would look for the source zone and IP address. Like if you have packet, on the packet it would looks for the source IP, destination IP, and on the packet there should be source zone and source zone. Okay, so it would looks these things. After looking the source zone, if the everything is right, it would go for packet forwarding lookup. So here it would going to check if there is any special policy based forwarding is enabled. Okay, or if there is any routing, so it would going to check for routing lookup. After in the packet, it would move to next stage where it would check the destination zone. And after destination zone lookup, if everything is correct, it would be going to check the net, whether net is required or not. Net policy is going to evaluate it over here. Okay, once initial packet processing would done, it would go for the security pre-checks. Okay, security pre-policy checking, where it would check whether the port is allowed, or whether session is created or not created. So it would check all these things. Then it is going to go for the application inspection and security policy lookup. So here it would do the parallel processing. At this stage, this is going to do parallel processing, where it is going to check the traffic required to be encrypted, if whether traffic is encrypted or not. If encrypted, apply decryption policy, look for the application override, looks for the application ID. Okay, and if there is any security profile is applied or not. For example, your IPS antivirus, these kind of security profile is applied or not. So all these things check parallelly. So it would done the parallel check over here. Okay, application and security policy lookup, and post all these things is, if packet is allowed, so this is going to check the post policy processing over here, where it required to, if the packet was decrypted earlier, so it is going to re-encrypt the packet. And finally, if NAT is required to be applied, so this is going to apply the NAT policy, and then it would start packet forwarding. So it would send the packet to the destination. Okay. So overall, we can say that the Palo Alto firewall does the packet processing at a 4 stage. In first stage, this performs initial packet processing. In second step, it is going to look up the security pre-policy. In third step, it is going to do the application checkup. In fourth stage, this is going to check the security profile or security policy, and finally it is going to do the post policy processing. Okay, so this is initial packet flow of the Palo Alto firewall. Any question, guys? Any doubt or any question?
Uh, could you please help me for this? What is the app ID?
So, in Palo Alto firewall, each traffic is identified by their application. For example, if you know this particular port 3389, so this is used for RDP communication. This is remote desktop connections. Okay, RDP port 3389. So for this RDP, this is not going to look up only the port, but this is going to look up the fingerprint of this RDP connection. So for each connection, there are some certain patterns actually. So for each services, there are some certain patterns, and based on that patterns, it would be able to identify the RDP connections. So basically, what is the benefit of that thing? For example, let's say I have a web server over here. This is my web server. Okay, and this web server is behind the firewall. So this is my firewall. The web server is behind the firewall. Now what people are doing from internet world, people are trying to access my web server. So on the firewall, let's say I have open port number 80 and 443, so that people could be able to access this web server. So what is the guarantee that people would be sending the legitimate traffic to this web server? Maybe someone is trying to send the reverse shell to this web server. Okay, malicious traffic on this web server. So the firewall researcher, I mean the security researcher, came into the concept, let's catch the fingerprint. Okay, so they would created this HTTP and HTTPS. This kind of traffic is a web browsing traffic. This is web browsing traffic. Okay, so they have created one web browsing application, okay, which is containing port number 80 and 443. Plus, this is containing fingerprint of the types of HTTP and HTTPS. So if their traffic is legitimate, so fingerprint would be matching. And if traffic is some kind of reversal, someone trying to send the reversal, so what happened? The fingerprint would not match. So Palo Alto firewall would be able to identify this is not a legitimate traffic. However, they are sending on port number 80, 443, but this is not legitimate traffic because the fingerprint of that or signature of that particular traffic has been unmatched. Okay, so firewall is immediately going to drop that. So what did the I mean in Palo Alto firewall, there are for each application, whether this is RDP, whether this is web browsing, whether this is your LDAP, for each application they have created, I mean for each port they have created application, and those application known as a application ID. So you can access this using this Applipedia, Palo Alto Applipedia. You can search here. Let me just open here. So if you show Appedia of Palo Alto, okay, so this is Applipedia of the Palo Alto. This is going to show you each application ID over here. You can just try to search any application. For example, I would try to search 3389. Regarding 3389, it would be showing me port, So for 3389, there are different application would be using port number 3389, but there is MSRDP as well, which is using 3389. Similarly, let's see 369. That is a port for your Active Directory. Okay, so this is going to show you that this is the port for Active Directory. So you can see there are different different port which is bind up with the application ID, so that is used to match the fingerprint regarding a particular application. Okay, so is that clear?
Yes, thanks.
All right, thanks. Now let's move to next one, and that is that is a demo of the lab. So let me just show you the lab, and let's do some basic configuration in lab. So this is my Palo Alto firewall. Okay, you can see this is the lab where you can see we have gateway, and we can consider that we have some external host as well. So these are my gateway, Palo Alto 1, Palo Alto 2. These are my gateway, which is connected to this central switch. And this is workstation from where I can access this gateway. And then we have this router. Let's consider this is my external router. So what I would do, I would do some basic configuration on my Palo Alto 1 firewall. Okay, and then I would try to send some traffic from this Palo Alto 1 firewall, I mean from this workstation to this external system. So we can say that my external system is 100.0.0.10. Okay, and my Palo Alto firewall interface IP. So this is management interface. So management interface IP, I would define 10.0.0.1. And this Ethernet 1, I would define this would be into internal zone. This would be internal. So for this one, I would assign IP 192.168.2.1. And for this Ethernet 1/2, I would assign the IP to this interface as an external. And for this IP would be 100.0.0.1. So what I would do, I would generate some traffic from this machine, which having the IP 192.168.2.10. So when I generate the IP from, ping from this system to access external system, so it would go to the Palo Alto firewall. And in the Palo Alto firewall, it would do the filtering. And after the filtering, the traffic would go towards the external system. Okay, so let's do this configuration. To do this configuration, what we required to do, first we need to do initial configuration. So in initial configuration, we need to define IP, okay, on this Palo Alto firewall, basically management IP. And post management IP, we will define zone, IP, and policy. All these things we will define on this Palo Alto Fire in order to allow the traffic from this workstation to the external system. So let me just do that configuration. So let's clear this and let's do that configuration. So if you want to access your Palo Alto firewall, basically, so you can access through console cable. Here, in my case, if I click on the Palo Alto firewall, this is just going to open the console for me. Okay, so this is the console of Palo Alto firewall. Let's try to log in here. So default username is admin and password is admin. When you are entering first time, it would ask you to reset your password. So put old password admin and new password, that is test @123. Confirm password test @123. Now this is the Palo Alto console. Okay, where you can run some command into the configuration. So I just want to check the configuration of my management interface, whether the management interface is configured or not. So I would run the command show interface management to check whether management interface is configured or not. So right now there is no configuration to the management interface. I would configure this. To configure this, we need to go on configure mode. Okay. So I'm on configure mode. Over here, we can run the command to set the IP address. So I just want to set the static IP address. So I need to run the command set device config system type static, because I just want to define a static IP. So I would select static. After this, I can set the IP address to the management interface. So there is a command set device config system IP dash address, and then I can assign the IP address. So I can assign IP address as I decided, that is um, for management what I decided, that is let's see, let's assign this IP address 10.0.0.1. This is the for management, and the net mask, this would be 255.255.255.0. So this is the management IP. Let's save this. So to save this, there is a command commit. You can just commit this. Okay, now I can exit from here and I can check whether the configuration has been done or not. Show interface management. So I can check the configuration. So configuration is there, right? This is defined. Now what I can do, now we can access this firewall in order to assign the IP addresses using GUI. So there is system, I have this system. I would try to access this firewall using this system. This is my workstation. So I would try to access using this workstation. So I need to assign the IP to this workstation so that I can access that firewall. So I would go to ncpa.cpl, and here I can define the IP address. So I think this is the interface which can be used to access the system. So I would assign IP address to this machine as a 10.0.0.10 and 255.255.255.0. I won't be assigning any default gateway because this is management access. So default gateway is not required. Now let's go to command prompt. Let's check we have connectivity ping 10.0.0.1. So by default to the management interface, ping is enabled. So I'm able to ping. I would try to access firewall using browser now so that I can configure other stuff over here. So let's access firewall using browser, https :// 10.0.0.1. Let's access it. Admin password is test@123. So we got the console of this Palo Alto firewall, okay, where we can see different options. Okay, let's go to this overview option first, where you can see the device information. So what is the device name? What is the management IP? What is the management net mask? Okay, if there is any IP address defined, IPv6 defined, or default gateway defined for this, so we would be able to see here. Apart from this, see the MAC address of this firewall, and now we can see the model number. So if there is any specific hardware, this is running on the virtual machine. That's why this is showing a PAVM. Serial number, if the firewall is activated, so here it would show serial number, then CPU ID, UID, etc. You can see VM licenses. Right now it is not enabled, and VM is running on the KVM virtualization. Okay, the version of the operating system you can see. So this is a pan OS version. This is 9.0.4. Okay, and there is a application version, URL filtering version you can see here. Uptime also you can see, and the important thing, you can see your management CPU and data plane CPU. So utilization of your management plane CPU and data plane CPU you can see here. Apart from this, you can see the session count. Right now I don't have any session, so that's why it is showing the session count as a 0. Then you can see the system logs over here. So this is the dashboard where you can get multiple informations, okay, which is pretty useful. So here you can see that who has logged in, okay, and here you can see the system logs, okay. So if there is any malicious activity, someone is trying to log in, or if the firewall is just malfunctioning, so you can just observe this system log. Then we have application control center. Okay, so where we can see the basic things. I mean, top talkers we can see over here. Right now we don't have any traffic, so the network activity is 0. Using this monitoring tab, we can see the monitoring. If we want to see the logs, so we can see the logs of the traffic log. We can see threat logs, that is IPS log, URL filtering logs. So all the logs can be seen through this monitoring tab. If we want to create policy, so we can create policy using this policy tab, okay. So where we can see create a policy for the security policy, okay. This is access rule basically. We can create net rule, we can create quality of services policy. So all these things policy can be managed using this policy tab. Then object. So in Palo Alto, we can create an address object, we can create an address group, we can create an application object. And if we want to see any existing object, so we can see as well. So if we want to create, we can click on add. Or if we want to see any specific, so we can see. Right now there is no address object, but yes, there would be application object, we can see over here. So here it is able to show me the application object. These are the predefined object. Okay. As I told you, you can see here like 3389, which is RDP port. So you can see for RDP, this is the applications. So if you want to allow RDP, so you can, instead of allowing the port number, you can allow the application. Similarly for ping, you can search for ping. Is there any object? Yes, for ping, there is an application. Okay, it should be able to show here. There would be application a certain application for ping. Okay, right now it is not showing here. Somewhere it would be down. Similarly, you can see that there are different objects using this object tab. Then we have network option where we can configure IP address, etc. So what I just want to configure, I just want to configure to IP to interfaces. So I would use Ethernet 1/1 to configure IP on this interface and Ethernet 1/2 to configure IP on this interface. So just go to interface where you want to configure IP. You can give the comment that this is internal, or we can say this is trust, okay. And you can configure interface type. So I would discuss this interface type later, I mean in the class, but for now I would select this interface type as a layer 3. And over here we can define the configuration. So we can define the virtual router, which is default, and we can define the security zone. So I don't have any security zone right now. I can create, and the security zone name I can give the trust is security zone, and I can just click on OK. So this interface belongs to trust zone, and I can define IP address to this interface. So need to click on add, and here we can define the IP address. So I would define IP address 192.168.2.1/24. So this is my trust interface. Now I would click on OK and would go to another interface. This is untrust. So I would give the name untrust. That is external. Give the interface type. This is layer 3. We can define and give the router. So this is a default virtual router. Here we can define the security zone. So trust we have already taken. One more zone we need to create, that is untrust. Untrust. And then we'll click on OK. Okay, now define the IP address. So this is external facing. So for this, I would define IP address 100.0.0.1. This is /24. And then we'll click on OK. Now interface has been defined. Okay. If you want to define some device configuration, for example, if you want to set up the host name, DNS, etc., so you can go to this setup option, and here you can define the host name. Okay. So let's go here and define some host name. I would give that host name Palo Alto 01. This is host name. Any login banner you want defined, so I would say authorize use only. Any login banner you can define. If you want to change the time zone, so you can do that. You can just, I would just click on OK. And now I would create some policy to allow the traffic. So by default, you can see there are security policy, and there are two types of security policy. One is the intra zone and other is the inter zone. So what is the meaning of this policy? So intra zone, let's say you are sending the traffic between trust zone to trust zone. Okay. If you have trust zone and you are sending the traffic between trust to trust, so what would happen if you are sending the traffic between trust to trust zone? So by default this is allowed. Here you would be able to see that traffic would be allowed between same zone. Traffic is allowed. Okay, that is intra zone. But if you want to send the traffic from trust to untrust, so by default that would be block. Interzone. So interzone, this is the second rule, is saying that if you want to send the traffic from one zone to another zone, like trust to untrust, so what the happen here, traffic would be blocked, and between trust to traffic is allowed. So this is the default policy, and this default policy cannot be modified. But apart from this default policy, above to this we can create some rule in order to allow some traffic. So what I would do, I would create some rule to allow the traffic. Let me just create some rule over here. So this is my rule number one. Above to this, I would try to add the rule. Okay, so let me just refresh this. And let's add rule. So this is going to be added on the top. Okay, so this is the rule name we can give. So I would say allow. And what I'm going to allow, trust to untrust. I just want to allow some traffic, trust to untrust. The source I can define over here. My source zone is trust. Source IP address I can define. Let's say in source IP address, if this source 192.168.2. What IP we have taken for this? Just a moment, let me just check. Okay, so we have taken 2 series IP. So let's create one policy. Allow trust to untrust. Okay, and here we can define the source. Source zone is trust. Source IP, I would say one of the IP I just want to allow. So what IP I just want to allow? 192.168.2.10 slash 24. Sorry, 2.10. I just want to allow this host only slash 32. This host only. Okay, where I don't have any user. So what the destination I just want to allow? I just want to allow for destination zone untrust and destination IP I can define over here. So that is 100.0.0.10. That is slash 32. Okay. Now application. So here I just want to allow ping traffic, PING, ping. Okay. And I have taken application, so not required a service or port. So here, if we don't have any application, so definitely we should go for the port number. So right now I have application, so I would not go here and select any port. I would say any port. So application is specific. This would be using application ID. Now we can go on action and we can select if the traffic should be allowed or should be denied. Okay, so I would allow this traffic and would click on OK. Now the rule has been created. This would be only effective when you commit the changes. So let's commit the change. So this is the commit option. Okay, so this is going to commit the change into the firewall. So let's click on this commit. It would be taking some time, and then this is going to commit into the firewall. Okay, so the commitment has been successfully. Using this task option, you can click here and you can see into the detail whether the commit is successful or not. So this is successful. Okay, so now we have just created rule. Let's try to generate some traffic. And before trying to generate some traffic, I would go on this external router and I would assign IP to this one. Plus I would assign one of the internal IP to this workstation. So let's do one by one. So this is my external router. I would assign external IP to this router. Enable conf take any particular interface, that is Ethernet 0/0. So interface Ethernet 0/0. Assign the IP address that is 100.0.0.10 and subnet mask 255.255.255.0. No shut, duplex full, and IP routing, IP route towards the firewall 0.0.0.0.0.0.0, and this should be routing towards the firewall 100.0.0.1. Okay, do WR. Similarly, I would go on the workstation. I have any other interface apart from this interface. This is another interface, and I would assign to IP to this interface. So this is 192.168.2.10 subnet mask, and the gateway IP would be firewall IP. Okay, now I would try to generate some traffic. Go to command prompt and try to ping 100.0.0.10. See, I'm able to send the traffic, and it would be it must be going through the firewall. Let me show you the sessions on the firewall. So we can go here on the monitor option, and we should go here on the session browser. So see, from the firewall, the traffic is going. So it is showing that from trust zone to untrust zone, the firewall traffic is passing through. Okay, and which application is here? This is the ping application, and what is the rule? This is allow traffic. So you can see that. Let me just open this logs. In more detail, we can see this is the flow from client to server. That means the traffic is from source to destination, and this is reverse flow. Okay, so you can see the thing here. Through the firewall, traffic is being passed. So session ID you can see here. Okay, timeout you can see here. This is processed by the virtual system 1. The traffic is ping. Okay, the protocol is 1 because this is ICMP. Okay, and rule name you can see that this is going via allow trust to untrust. Okay, and this is the source. Source is from trust zone. Okay, and destination is untrust zone. So you can see here, this is from PC to router, and this is a return traffic. So now your traffic is flowing properly. Okay, and this is flowing just because of that rule. What if I disable that rule? Okay, what if I disable the policy? So let's go and try to disable this policy. So select this, and here is the disable option. Here it is disable option. Let's disable this for a moment, and let's commit this. Your traffic is going to deny after commit successful. See, once a commit is successful, now traffic is denying. So your traffic from this PC, this is my internal PC. On this PC we have two interface. How traffic is flowing? First it is going to switch from switch to Palo Alto on Ethernet 0/1, and then Palo Alto is going to check whether traffic required to be allowed or not. So once you disable, so your interzone traffic is going to match here, the rule number 3, and just because of that rule, the traffic is being dropped. Okay, if I enable again same rule, go and enable this. Okay, so it's enabled. Let's commit this. So if I enable again, what would happen? Now your firewall would be passing traffic further. Let's see. Yeah, it is started passing traffic further. So how traffic is flowing? It would go to the firewall on Ethernet 0/1. It would via Ethernet 0/2 to the switch, and then the traffic would go to this router. So that's the complete traffic flow. Okay, and that is the basic demo of this this Palo Alto firewall. Please let me know if you have any question regarding this firewall, or if there is anything else you just want to know. Please let me know. Anyone? All right.
No.
No?
That's great. Thanks, Samar, for sharing such a nice demo. Okay, I hope you have provided all of the insights that is required for this particular class. Okay, maybe can you just stop sharing your screen, please?
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, if you don't have any kind of technical questions, if you have any question related to the lab access, related to the workbook, related to any other sort of mode you wanted to get clear from us, you can please let us know. And for syllabus, I hope Amar already cleared that you can go to the netminion.net, okay, and post going over there, NetMinion solutions. Maybe you can type over the Google, and by any means, if you are going to our website, you go to the courses. Okay, since you are very keen for Palo Alto, go to the Palo Alto, and Palo Alto page will get open. Okay, and from there you can just scroll it down, and here is the download complete syllabus option. Just click on this and a PDF will get open in front of you. Okay, and you can just go through this, that what are all of the syllabus which we are covering into this particular class. So again, this class would be Saturday and Sunday, weekend based class. Okay, and you will be getting 2 hours each day, Saturday and Sunday individually. So per weekend maybe 4 hours you
Could
can
you please get to, is there any fixed timing for that?
Yes, there is a fixed timing. If I am not wrong, it would be evening hours, probably 7 to 9, or maybe I need to consult with Amar. Okay, Amar,
Because my query is that I'm working in a 6-day week. So Saturday is not off in my office. So I have to adjust according to that.
what is your like timings for the
It's a
office
9 to
hours?
6. 9 to 6.
9 to 6. Then yes, maybe 7 to 9 would be good for you. Amar, let me know, 7 to 9 slot is free for you also, right? For Palo Alto?
Yes, that's free for me. Yeah.
Right. So we would be considering it 7 to 9 p.m. Okay, IST, so that in morning you can just go with your regular days activity, and in evening you can go through the classes. So that is one step. Second thing is, this course would be containing not only theoretical knowledge, as he said, okay, it would be the practical knowledge also, and you will also get the interview questions in the last. Okay, he is taking the interviews from along, already delivered couple of the retail training and the corporate training as well, so he would be going through in that manner as well. Okay, apart from this, any other questions? Vineet, Arvind, Mosajay, or Raki?
Sorry, how many days? I think duration for this class.
It would be around 24 plus hours of code. So it means it would be around 1.5 months minimum. Okay. And rest it depend upon the classes. Like if it is get extended, maybe you can say 1.6, or you can say like 7 weeks. Okay.
Okay.
7 weeks or 6 weeks. So you can say 1.5 month.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Hmm.
No?
Can you please brief me a trainer profile, because
Okay, maybe Amar, can you please talk about your profile over here?
Yeah, sure. So basically, I have experience on this Palo Alto technology. So I'm working in Palo Alto since 7 years. Okay, and overall I have 10 plus year of experience, and I do have experience on the network, and I have experience in a network security. So that means routing and switching. Plus I have experience on the firewall. Apart from this, I do have experience on the cloud technology. Okay, and proxy technology. So I do have extensive experience on the firewall technology, and on my day-to-day job, I'm just managing the firewall operation and implementation.
Okay. Okay. Apart from it, any other question to anyone? No. Okay.
no, no.
So as the part of this course, let me brief you again what you people will be gonna get. Okay. So first of all, you will be getting the live training from the trainer, experienced trainer. Again, all of the trainers of the NetMinion solutions are the working experienced trainers. It means they are working in some kind of MNCs, and they are giving the training also. And that is the reason why we are operating into Saturday and Sunday mainly, right? So that is the one benefit, that you are not getting the theoretical class, you will be getting the practical knowledge, because he is working, or whatever or training you will take from us, either it is ACI, Nexus, SD-WAN, or whatever name you take. All the trainers are the experienced trainers. So you will get the practical knowledge. That is the top most thing which you will be getting. Second thing, you will get 24 by 7 lab access, the same lab which he was sharing onto his screen. You will also get the lab access, so that you can have the proper hands-on, okay, during the training. And post maybe 15 days, that would be around 45 days or 50 days, you will get the access for the lab. Okay, and some hours would be get allocated to you. Then you will be getting the lab guides known as workbook maybe. Okay, so by performing the task through the workbook, you can easily able to achieve your goal. Maybe if one practical is done or dictated or shown by the Amar in the class, and later on you want to get practice for that, then you have the workbook. Those workbook would be empowering you when you need to perform your lab by yourself. And if you stuck somewhere, you will be getting the videos, whatever sessions we are performing over here, you will have that session recording for free and for lifetime. Okay, mostly institute don't provide the free recording, but here we are providing free and for lifetime. Okay, so that you will be getting. And on the top of that, as I was discussing, that you will be getting some interview support. Okay, like what kind of questions can be asked in the interview, because he is like experienced trainer, so he will be supporting you in that. And you would be the part of our group, where you can ask at any sort of time if you wanted to ask some technical queries. Okay, any other questions?
Hmm.
I hope it is clear to you, all of you, right?
Thanks a lot.
Okay, one more thing. If you want to just reach me. You just click on this WhatsApp button and you would be I would be one hop away. Okay, or you can just chat over here with Sahil, or maybe if you are in contact with Joya, she will be a good lady to provide you all of the support. Okay, so in any case, if you wanted to reach us, you can reach us